Welcome to the world of high octane impact in World of Tanks, and of course we have a ton of replays to show how you can actually manage to pull out some ridiculous games in the biggest guns in the game. Of course, the FV215B and the FV4005 are today's video, and hopefully you guys do enjoy and you'll find something useful within this. Now, when it comes to high alpha damage in World of Tanks, there is no tanks really better than, of course, these two monstrosities. And the FV215B is the first one that we're seeing. It has the high alpha damage that you'd expect from a 183mm cannon and can certainly be a little bit devastating. And why exactly is it so devastating? Well, I mean, you can deal 1500 damage in one singular shot, and that was actually not the total damage that you can deal in one shot. Because of course you have 1750 alpha total that you can use with this thing. And although this has high rewards, it also has high risk, because if you do not manage to pen, you only deal 200 damage, as you just saw to the top of the Minotaur there. And it definitely doesn't always pen, because it only has 230 penetration, which, when you look at the alpha damage, is not actually that bad anyway. And if you play calm and collected, and you know when to and where to hit an opponent, you can take out a T110E5 from pretty much full health. Oh, this is just disgusting. And as great as one-shotting opponents is and having this high alpha damage, you do have to play it in a certain way, and it isn't just a case of, oh well, you just have to get lucky, because although luck does play a part in the game, you have to be very, very good at positioning yourself with a reload that is not particularly great, and in a tank that is not particularly the most mobile either, and is usually pretty big as well. If you were to compare the FV4005, also doesn't have that much armor. But when you can get this thing into the right position, as you're seeing here on Oyster Bay, you can pick up a ton of damage, and we've seen 5,000 damage in just 4 shells. So ridiculous amount of potential with this thing, and to be able to get 10k, you only actually have to hit 6 shells if you high roll slightly on a few of them. Now, while the two replays we're showcasing today are super powerful, what would be even more powerful than that would be if you like the video and subscribe. So of course this is where the high octane gameplay comes in, because although, you know, you have that kind of reward of being able to actually have these ridiculous games which you're seeing here and having so many pens against opponents, you also have a ton of games where you probably do not that much, or you just end up not actually dealing any real damage and you're only splashing opponents to things like the Minotaur, like 200, but consistently throughout the game. And that's really where these tanks just completely are different from what you usually have in World of Tanks, where it is a consistent stream of damage that you have to be in good positions throughout the entire game, whereas this thing is that you need to be in the best positions throughout the entire game to be able to really get any level of damage. By no means am I saying that you have to YOLO or anything like that, because in fact in this game you've seen just really good use of the bushes and staying back and just not making any silly mistakes by trying to drive out, by trying to do anything spectacular. And often, although you will have these want to do it because you have this high alpha damage, it's not always the best thing that you can do. And actually, if you stay a little bit more conservative and decide that you want to stick back and just let the game play out and then use your kind of knowledge of how the game is going to develop, you're going to end up with a way better result. And that's how you can make these tanks work. And hopefully the examples that we're showcasing in today's video are a good case of that, and you'll find out some cool spots that you can use in tanks like this. Even if you were to look at something like a KV2, you know, you have that high alpha, high kind of risk, because if you fire and you don't pen, you are sat there for a long time, and it's the exact same with this tank, and it's imperative that you do fully aim. And you could see there, he could have gone for the YOLO shot. Maybe the tank would have moved if he didn't actually, if he fully aimed, but luckily he didn't, and he actually picks up the damage. And of course, doesn't get spotted because of the fact that, you know, he waited until it was right and he decided that he needed to actually fire when he did, and that's really what's going to give you the best result. And although there is tons of tanks like the FV in the game that can potentially be a real nuisance, things like the Jaeger, the FV215B, there is none really like it that come out with the games that these 183mm can do. And when you are sat in a brilliant position and the enemy team are doing exactly what you want, coming outside on, opening themselves up, yeah, this tank is perfect for that. And that's how you've been able to see the FE manage to pick up over 10,500 damage, or thereabouts. And you can see here the problem is that now that the Object 277 is in the game, it's really difficult to reliably pen him with the Hesh rounds. But don't worry, you can always count on the RNG to favour you when you're having a game like this, and this is why this tank is so amazing to see played, and played well, and also getting the RNG on their side. And this is why I really want you guys to go out and try and get these vehicles. Obviously the FV215B183 only available through the black market, but the FV4005 on the other hand is of course a free vehicle that you can pick up in the tech tree, and I guess now is the time we can actually jump over to that. So we've seen what the armoured older brother can do against vehicles, but what about the weakly armoured boy within the tech tree that you can currently have? And of course this tank is the dream for anyone firing HE rounds and other 183s, so it is like a counter to its own tank by only really having to worry alpha wise against itself, and that makes this tank super dangerous because there are a few tanks that can trade anywhere near this thing, and that's what makes it one of the more formidable tanks, and very annoying to play when you don't pen because you're dealing no damage and you are a giant box of hit points to farm, but even more rewarding when you manage to pen even the thickest of armor in the game, and one of the thickest armored tank destroyers in the game, the Jaeger. So yeah, I mean, which one would you rather have if you were wanting just pure fun? I'd probably pick these two tanks that we've showcased so far every single time over something like the Jaeger. Uh-oh, doesn't look like the 60 TP realizes what he's just got himself stuck into. And yeah, back to the garage like many tanks before him. Yeah, I absolutely love, and I think these tanks are so addictive for just playing that kind of loot box role within the game and the gameplay, because it is just simply a roll of the dice sometimes as to whether or not you're going to be able to pen with these things and whether or not the shell actually hits where you're aiming, because they don't have the best accuracy, and no one's going to be BSing you, telling you that these have unbelievable accuracy. They're going to be able to pinpoint weak points from sniping at the back. Of course they're never going to be able to do that, they just simply don't have the accuracy, but that's what makes it even better when you do go for those shots and you do manage to pen. And why, if you do come up against these things, you don't want to be exposing yourself a whole lot, because if the gods at Wargaming decide it's so, you're going to end up back to the garage. You can see there that the Kranvang enters the garage once more, having been removed. But don't worry, it doesn't all end there. As you can see, a Jaeger thinking he's funny and ends up taking 1800. Seems like the Jaegers in this game are really dreading the fact that they had to come up against one of these bad boys. And yeah, I mean, 1800 damage in one singular hit. Can you do it with any other tanks other than these? No, not really. I mean, you could with an artillery, but penning them is a lot harder than if you were playing in the FV4005, and which makes this mobile artillery piece a real fun way to play. And uh-oh, looks like the enemy FV4005 met his match with the identical twin on the enemy side. Although you really want to get stuck in going full aggression mode with these tanks, a lot of the time it is just being about taking your opportunities. You could see he could have gone for the 277 there but you want to wait until you get a much better opportunity. Of course, the 277 was moving, trying to get behind the rock. He then waits, gets himself into a good position and pre-aims it and takes the shot, and that is what's going to yield you the best results. Of course, you can do silly things that are obviously just never going to pen. You could be trying to snipe light tanks across the map with this tank, and of course, you know, that's never going to work, right? Or maybe not. Of course, yes, getting a little bit lucky that the shell actually flew true. I mean, it wasn't the hardest of shots. There was a lot of area of the T110 or T100 LT that he could have actually hit. But yeah, always nice to see in the game, and hopefully you guys have been enjoying it. And against pesky YOLOers, there's no tank that's better. Hopefully you guys did enjoy these two absolutely crazy replays in one of the best high octane vehicles in the game, and of course let me know what you think about these two vehicles, and yeah, subscribe if you're interested in seeing more.